West Africa stands once again at a crossroads. In the early hours after an attempted power shift in Benin, President Patrice Talon appeared on national television, assuring the country that the situation was under control and that the conspirators had been arrested. Yet, almost simultaneously, Colonel Pascal Tigri and units of the armed forces released their own declaration, insisting that they had successfully taken authority in the name of national dignity and sovereignty. Two versions of reality, one nation, and a single question with enormous consequences. What is truly happening inside Benin? The events of these hours have exposed far more than a dispute between a head of state and military officers. They have revealed a deep fracture within the army, a widening gap between the government and the population, and the unmistakable presence of foreign interests operating behind the scenes. Today, we dissect these overlapping narratives to understand what is at stake, not only for Benin, but for the entire West African region. This anger is at the heart of Colonel Pascal Tigri's message. Leading what he calls the Military Committee for Refoundation, he has accused the government of failing its own army, of allowing a national force to deteriorate to the point where soldiers must fight not for the nation, but for their own survival. This is an accusation that cuts to the core of state legitimacy. In many African countries, the military is not just an institution. It is a symbol of sovereignty, sacrifice, and national unity. When soldiers claim they have been abandoned, the consequences are profound. Yet the conflict is not merely internal. Surrounding the crisis is the question of foreign involvement, especially the rapid engagement of France and Nigeria. According to Tigri's supporters, their movement is not simply a reaction against domestic mismanagement. It is a response to years of external influence, political, economic, and military, that they believe has compromised Benin's autonomy. These accusations echo a broader regional trend where nations across the Sahel have openly questioned long-standing relationships with former colonial powers. In this wider context, the events in Benin do not appear isolated. They resemble a pattern. Local armies frustrated by inadequate support, governments struggling to manage security crises, and foreign partners whose involvement often complicates rather than resolves the situation. Whether one agrees with the analysis or not, this perception is shaping the political sentiment of thousands of citizens in the region. President Talon's response has added another dimension to the crisis. By declaring that the coup attempt failed and that the conspirators were arrested, he sought to project control. Yet the persistence of Tigri's declarations suggested a divide far deeper than a government willing to acknowledge. When two centers of authority claim legitimacy simultaneously, the nation enters a phase of uncertainty where each side's credibility depends on the support they command both inside and outside the military. Meanwhile, the north of Benin remains a constant reminder of what triggered this upheaval. For months, soldiers have faced increasingly sophisticated hostile groups, often better armed and better funded. Reports suggest that many Beninese troops lacked proper armor, communication equipment, and logistical support. For families of the soldiers, these shortcomings have become a painful and recurring tragedy. And for the rebels, they form the moral justification for their intervention. Foreign reactions intensified the crisis. France quickly aligned itself with the elected government, deploying support to ensure Talon remained in power. Nigeria took a similar position, sending personnel and reinforcing its role as a regional stabilizer. But these moves raised uncomfortable questions. If the government has lost the confidence of segments of its own army, why must external actors intervene to maintain it? What interests are being protected? And more importantly, who benefits from preventing political changes demanded by those who claim to represent the nation's uniformed members? These questions have resonated deeply within the Beninese population. Many citizens feel that their country is being pulled between internal fractures and external pressures. For years, public dissatisfaction has grown in sectors of the economy, security, and governance. The attempted power shift has forced these frustrations into the open. The crisis also carries symbolic weight. Across the Sahel, leaders such as Captain Ibrahim Traoré have gained widespread attention for speaking openly about sovereignty and resisting outside interference. His message has shaped political discourse far beyond Burkina Faso, influencing young people and military officers across the region, including, evidently, in Benin. The idea that sovereignty must be absolute has become more than rhetoric. It is now a rallying point for those who believe Africa must regain full control over its political choices. Thus, the confrontation in Benin is part of a broader ideological struggle, a struggle over who decides the future of African states, their citizens or foreign partners. While Talon insists his government is defending constitutional order, Tigre's supporters argue they are defending national dignity. These narratives collide in a space where constitutional authority, military loyalty, and international influence all intersect. The situation remains fluid. The government stresses its legitimacy and insists the threat has been neutralized. But the persistence of competing military voices raises doubts about how unified the armed forces truly are. And until that question is resolved, the stability of the state remains uncertain. What is clear is that this crisis has forced Benin to confront deep structural weaknesses: an overstretched army, reliance on foreign security partners, growing discontent among soldiers, and a political system struggling to balance national interest with international alignment. It has also exposed a critical generational divide. Younger Africans increasingly reject narratives that justify foreign intervention, and they demand leadership that reflects the values of independence, accountability, and national pride. Whether the attempted takeover succeeds or fails, the grievances that fueled it will not disappear. They represent unresolved tensions at the heart of Benin's political identity. And unless addressed, they will shape the country's trajectory for years to come. Benin's current crisis is more than a clash between a president and a military officer. It is a moment that forces the nation and the region to rethink the meaning of sovereignty, leadership, and responsibility. As long as soldiers feel abandoned on the front line and citizens question whether their leaders act independently, the possibility of instability will remain. The role of foreign powers in shaping political outcomes only deepens these concerns. But this moment also presents an opportunity. It allows Benin to confront its internal divisions, reassess its alliances, and redefine its political future. What emerges from this crisis will depend not only on political leaders, but on the people themselves. The demand for dignity, independence, and accountability is growing across West Africa. And as Benin navigates these turbulent days, the rest of the continent is watching closely, aware that its decisions will echo far beyond its borders.